Hey, folks, welcome back to the podcast. This is the Finch Show, and I am James Finch. We're talking about all things 3D printing, cosplay, and anything nerdy and rad. My guest on this episode of the podcast is Daniel. He goes by Build Daniel Build on Instagram, and he made a full size wearable Buzz Lightyear costume, 3D printed it. Looks absolutely amazing. I saw it on Instagram. I'm like, I got to get this guy on the show. So we did it. Without further ado, here's Daniel. All right, man. So I guess the best place to start, because one of the things about 3D printing people is that they like love to talk shop. You know, they're like car people. They love to get into the specs and all that kind of stuff. So if we just rewind it back, where did that begin for you?
So the very first time that I got into 3D printing, I was about 17, I want to say. My older brother Stefan, he was heavily into 3D printing in his university, and he actually gave me my first 3D printer. Um, and instead of doing like a test print, a benchy, figuring out how our printer worked, I immediately started 3D printing a helmet, like an Iron Man helmet. And that dates back to when I was like 11 or 12. I had first seen Iron Man. I loved building, creating, cardboard foam, um, paper, all of that. And I've always wanted to just make stuff. So throughout the years, I've slowly built and created, anything that I wanted to make. And once I got my printer from my older brother, it kind of like snowballed into the point where I just make anything I want now. Started with like one printer that he gave me, and I've just slowly gotten to the point where if I want a suit and I'm passionate for it, I just go for it because I love it. Like the Buzz Lightyear suit that I just finished.
Mm-hmm. The how many printers you rocking right now?
So I want to say, well, functional ones. There's 7 functional ones. There's a few that I've been tearing apart, upgrading. But I have 7 functional. Mainly just Creality printers, and then there's one small resin printer that I actually gave to my brother. I gave him back a printer, so I gave him the resin printer, and so I'm going to be getting that back later to start, doing some resin prints. But yeah, run about typically I'll run 3 to 4 on a regular basis. I don't really need to run 7 at all times, but typically 3 to 4.
Yeah, I like the way you put that functional, because I think it's that way with anybody who's like super into 3D printing.
Yeah.
Like I had 3, and up until yesterday, I had 1 functional. Finally got another one back up and running, and I've got a third one that I'm still, working on.
Right.
That's crazy. What all printers you got?
So the first one that I got was like it was like a 3D printed. I don't really know the exact company, but it was a 3D printed printer. I then stepped it up, got the Ender 3 in like 2018. I still have it, still kind of runs. I don't really use it that often. And then I got 2 artillery sidewinders. They are non-functional. I'm not the biggest fan of them. I'll make them work, but there's so much of a hassle with them that I kind of decommissioned them. And when I have more time, I'll go back and fix them. But the main ones I run that are currently running right now, I have an Ender 3 that's like strictly TPU. And then I have 2 CR10S V2s, and then an Ender 5 Plus, which actually the belt just snapped like 2 days ago. So I just got new belts like right before, got just brand new belts. So I need to throw those belts on. But yeah, those are the main ones I run. The 5 Plus, definitely my favorite printer.
That's the funny thing about doing 3D printing is like you don't have to know how a car works to drive a car.
No,
but if you're getting into 3D printing, you're going to learn to be a mechanic on those things on top of it.
Right. And that's, man, I can like strip my printers down now. Like if there's something wrong, it's like, okay, I might not exactly know what it is, but I could take it apart and put it back together. So
yeah. I got back in February, I bought a CR10 Max.
okay.
And yesterday I was finally able to start my first print on it.
Really?
like right out of the box. Right out of the box, the motherboard was bad.
Okay.
And
Wow.
I'm not going to go into it too much because people have heard me talking about the podcast, but that's like the one crappy thing about Creality is they make great products. Their customer service is trash.
Hmm.
And I knew it was the motherboard. And I'm like, I'm not paying for the motherboard when I literally just took it out of the box,
Right.
and it took me like probably 6 weeks of emailing them back and forth because, of course, they
Hmm.
want me to try 50 million things to, because they don't want to just send me a motherboard just because I said so.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was wrong. And then the BL touch sensor, there was a big touch sensor thing. There was a big issue with that. So I had to
Jeez.
learn how to like run the thing like without the touch sensor whatsoever. And just, which once you know how to do, it's like, oh, okay, I can do that. But
Mhm.
when you don't know, you're like, oh crap, now here's another thing I got to figure out. Yeah, for sure. Is a primary build, people who know you have seen your Instagram, and people who
Mhm.
don't know you, go take a look, Build Daniel Build at Instagram. It looks like from the wall behind you, you're kind of a helmet focused kind of fella.
So that never was the case originally. So I 3D printed, like two or three Iron Man helmets in 2018, and then I was like, all right, I gotta make a suit. Like I had a cardboard suit when I was a kid, I had a foam suit. I need a 3D printed suit. So I made the Mark 6, and that was my first suit I ever made. Really bad quality. Didn't really know how to do much stuff. And that's what it was. So I did focus on helmets when I really got into it and started putting, like making it my passion and trying my best to get the best helmets I could. Because they're kind of like tests, right? You can try different things. You don't have to worry about an entire suit. So back in when COVID first started, the Doom suit was my first, like my next suit. I drove down to my brother's place, hung out with Stefan, and I played Doom for like the first time. I hadn't played Doom before, and I beat Doom in like 2 to 3 days. Like that's what I did. I like played Doom, and walking away from it, I was like, I need this suit. I'm gonna make this suit now. So I found some files and I mashed some files together. I did EVA foam work for most of the body. So I made the Doom suit, and I absolutely loved it. I still love it. It's not my favorite suit anymore. And then after that is whenever I made really good connections with some of my best friends now. Ryra Studios, James, Third Dimension Builds, Mike, Colt Cosplay. Um, those guys have been, like my core friends. Then House of M Design Works as well. So we're like, it's our core group of like builders. But it really started off with just Ryra Studios and Third Dimension Builds, kind of just like messaging both of them. And then one night I was like, I'm gonna make a group chat. And since then, I don't think there's been a day we haven't like chatted with each other. We're all best friends. We went to Vegas together in February. So since then, just chatting with them, they're also kind of helmet focused. I really started making helmets, but as you can see, there's like two that are painted the correct way, or the ones that they're supposed to look like, which is like God Killer and maybe the Mark 49 Rescue. Um, I really just want to make like different and like weird style stuff. That isn't, the normal, which actually dates back to my high school ceramics teacher, Mr. Quammen. Um, he's my best friend. He's been a huge inspiration for me because like every day in class, he would come in with this crazy artwork. It's like this really beautiful but like grotesque, like monster, like mashup. But he would always, like it'd be like, well, what if you did it this way? Or like, imagine if this were to happen. And the big one was when he put Black Panther and MODOK together. It was like a really weird like mashup. And since then, I've always been like, what if I did it this way? Like keeping Quammen's like, ideas in the back of my head. So now I have like the comic book Mark 85, the Superior, the like Borderland style. Like it's just that's just a way that I can get my ideas into like an actual helmet. Um, but yeah, and since I like made these helmets, I was kind of working on my Star Boost suit, the Mark 39, and then James made the Iron Zombie, the Mark 46 Iron Zombie, and I was like, I'm gonna make an Iron Zombie as well, so we can be like Iron Zombie buddies. And he was absolutely cool with the idea. So we both went to Vegas as Iron Zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's kind of where I slowly transitioned into from like helmets to suits. But yeah, it's just a fun way to express myself and do weird stuff, but in a faster way than it is to like make a whole suit. I can just like, here's a helmet I want to make. I want to see what it would look like if I did this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And, that's the great thing about 3D printing is that like unless you were going to sit there like, just cranking out like the perfect like Mark 85 helmet over and over and over and over again, like have fun with that, dude. Some of the wild stuff that I've seen, the zombie thing is really cool that both Ryro and you have done. How does even looking out of that thing work? Like, is the eye socket like somehow so you can see out of it, or you just walk around like a blind man?
So, yeah, basically, you can see kind of out of the eye socket when it's not like pressing against you because you're putting a skull inside of it, so the helmet is already snug. My helmets, I make sure that they're like really snug on me just because I want it to be like as close of a fit as it can. Then you got to throw like another skull in there and make it so it fits. So like the Hammer Dead and Zomboost, both are wearable, but you can see fine out of the eye sockets. But when the light's on, you can't really see out of that one. So if I have someone on like my right side, it's hard to see. But it's all fun. I'm not wearing it too long, but it was a great idea from James's, point. He was the one that really like sparked that zombie kind of approach to it, and a lot of people have ran with it, and that's kind of where I made Hammerhead, and then Hammer Dead, and then Zombies now.
Speaking of that whole crew, I have something that I hope isn't an issue. I am wearing Crocs right now. Is that a problem? Like,
you didn't have to say it, you didn't have to say that. But no, I don't think it'll be that much. We're very welcoming, but we do have the fish flops are the superior footwear. So.
They look like I don't know how I've been building this whole time without them. I'm getting on Amazon as soon as we're done recording this and getting a pair for sure.
They're like $8.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And they come in different colors. You can get the bass flops, like trout. They even have lobster flops now.
Like, really?
They got lobsters.
They got northern pike ones, because that would be
probably
that'd be the bomb. Like,
there's so many different kinds now.
I love it. That is cool. So because inevitably we have to talk about it. We have to talk about the Buzz Lightyear suit, like 100%. First of all, where'd the inspiration come?
So, I watched Toy Story as a kid. I love Toy Story. It was always fun. But it also kind of, I draw inspiration from my older brother Stefan as well. I love all my siblings, but Stefan kind of like sparks the 3D printing because he was the one that first gave it to me. But he loves space and everything about it. And when I like Toy Story, but when I saw Lightyear, I saw that suit like in the teaser trailer, and I was like, no way, that thing is sick. Like, that is the coolest suit ever. It's like a space suit, but it's also like Toy Story. And I couldn't get enough of it. And it was in the back of my head as I was building like helmets and stuff. I was like, I could really make this. I really want to make that. And then Johan made the files for it, and I like paid up front, pre-ordered that thing. And the instant he sent me those files, I started building. So it was about 50 days it took me from print to finish. It was the fastest I've ever built, but I also feel like it's one of my cleanest builds. I was spending 2 to 3 hours a day out in my shop, just like going at it, sanding, painting, like wet sanding. It was just a mad dash. I couldn't get it out of my head until I finished it. And I managed to finish it the day of the premiere. Like, I put everything on the day of the premiere, and it's still weird to me. Like, I look at it, it's kind of behind me. It's still like, I look at it and I'm like, that's mine. Like, it's still weird that, less than 2 months ago, I didn't own this thing. So,
and you didn't buy it. Nobody else owns one like it. Like, that's it. and it looks phenomenal. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
looks, because that's one of the things I thought was cool about just like you said, seeing the Lightyear trailers. It's like there's Buzz Lightyear, like the toy from Toy Story,
Yep.
and then there's Buzz Lightyear here, where like things look more realistic, more functional, more, and the suit is just like if you tried to, it wouldn't look near as cool as if you attempted to build it to look like Buzz Lightyear from Toy Story.
Right.
But this looks like borderline Space Marine, like
Yes.
badass Buzz
Yes.
Lightyear. You know what I mean?
That's what I love about it. But I think the most intricate, like strenuous part of the suit was the stickers.
Mm-hmm.
The suit, I had to like kind of make my own font because I couldn't find a font anywhere for it. So I had found a free font and like modified it so it looks like the tactical Buzz Lightyear font because I can't find it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like 85 stickers throughout the suit, like release, open, unlock, like on every single part, and they're like tiny. So I used my Cricut, and for like hours, I was like until 2 a.m. I was like sitting over the suit, hand placing all these little decals, the triangles, the vents. Oh yeah. But it was worth it. Like I was so excited about this. It made me so happy. And to finally finish it, I was like, this is awesome. Like this is a step out of, because obviously Iron Man. It was like a step away from that into something that I could wear, and I absolutely love it. So
cool.
Yeah.
Did you wear it to the premiere?
I did not.
Oh,
I got my mom. Major credit to my mom. Love her to death. She sewed me I bought a jumpsuit and she sewed on Lightyear and the Space Ranger decals. She
nice.
hand cut them and sewed. Yeah, coolest thing ever. So I wore that to the premiere. I haven't like officially debuted the suit in public. I've worn it personally and gotten pictures and videos. But my very first premiere of the suit will be next month. So like July 28th, I believe, in GalaxyCon in Raleigh, North Carolina, which I think is perfectly fitting that Buzz Lightyear will be at GalaxyCon.
Yeah.
So
is that about where you're at out on the East Coast?
Yeah, so I'm in South Carolina, so it's not too far of a drive.
Okay.
So
no, like Ryro and all them are in St. Louis, yeah?
Yes.
All right. Yeah,
so
terrible.
Colt Cosplay, he's like 2 hours from me up in North Carolina. We actually ventured out his way for PlanetCon. It was like 16 hours. We like drove through the night, got to his place at like 9 a.m. I think. And we're like, oh, it's daytime outside. And then kind of slept and then drove out to PlanetCon that day. So James and I wore our Iron Zombies.
That is, I saw the picture of that. How is so how are you a pretty avid con person in terms of attending, or just kind of here and there?
So I've really gotten into it. I really, it's a fun place to go, especially with my friends. And it's just fun because I get to meet new people. And I had we weren't originally going to go. And then James was like, Adam Savage is going to be there. And I was like, oh, we're going. Like there's no question, we're going. Because Adam Savage has been honestly my lifelong role model. Ever since I was in like kindergarten, I've watched Mythbusters and I absolutely loved it. I've watched Tested, everything. And just for the chance to meet him. And that's where I gave him the Mark I Adam Savage that I made. Yeah, so I like to go to cons, especially if I can meet people. But if they're relatively close, I'll throw my suit on, I'll walk around. It's fun just to meet new people and have a good time.
Yeah. Do you range out much from kind of the East Coast area? Have you done any like real far ones other than PlanetCon?
So actually, like the first cons I had really been to was Vegas. We all flew into Vegas in February, and that was like actually the first time I had met all of the guys, like both Mike's, James, and Rafi. That we all were like, let's go to Vegas for Level Up Con, and we pulled the trigger on it. We flew out there, met up, had a crazy weekend with each other. And then after that, the next con was the Kansas Con. So like the very first cons I really like gone to were nowhere close to where I live.
How nerve-wracking is it packing up the suit for a flight?
So when you have a destroyed suit, not at all. It's just like cram everything. Like they weren't even really like protected suitcases. I had three suitcases between me and Cool Cosplay because we flew out together from Atlanta. So like I kind of just like Tetrised the suit inside of itself and then like stuffed it in there. Didn't really put padding. Suit wasn't even broken. And even if it did break, I mean it's already a zombie suit that you just
Yeah.
glue back together. So yeah, it wasn't that nerve wracking, but when we went to Kansas, that still wasn't. I don't really think anything broke that much. But Buzz, I'm like, that's my baby now. I can't risk
Yeah.
that. It's pretty strong. I've reinforced that thing a lot. Um, I'm just the mobility of it's also great. I can walk around. I can sit. That's so
Mm.
freeing. I can walk up to a chair and sit on half of it. Um, but I don't think that one's gonna be too difficult to pack up and stuff. But I don't know if I'm really gonna want to fly with that thing because the torso's solid. Um, so that one doesn't unbuckle or separate from itself. It's just a solid piece.
Hmm. Yeah, you'd be nervous about how's that is it just kind of like mid abdomen up is all one solid thing that you kind of put your arms through and put on?
So the model itself is you kind of take the chest and you like slip your arms through.
Oh,
And I
okay.
was like, I don't want to do that. Like that doesn't the Doom suit is actually the entire part of it. This is all one solid piece with EVA foam. It's still flexible, but I have to like slip through. And I didn't want to keep doing that, raising and taking the entire thing off of me. So what I did on Buzz was where my underarms will connect to the chest. Those pop out. I have magnets on them. So my underarms will actually connect to the chest of the back piece. So I can just pop them off, place the suit on, take the suit off. Um, and then the abs will go under that, and then the cod piece sits on top, kind of the abs.
Hmm.
So that also gives it way more, mobility where I can move around. That there's no intersecting parts, but it was designed extremely well by Johan. He did a fantastic job with that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, it looks incredible. I remember the first time I saw because when you kind of like bounce around the cosplay community, especially the 3D printing cosplay community, you see tons of really awesome variants of Iron Man, and several other heroes, and then it was like this crazy dude is doing Buzz Lightyear, and it is like one of the. And I think at that point in time, yeah, it wasn't even close to being finished yet, but it was like so cool, like right up to it. I was like, oh my god, like I couldn't wait to see that thing finished. And yeah, it didn't let down. I mean, the final video or at least the most recent video that you posted, it was just like, geez.
yeah, I put blood, sweat, and tears into that suit. Like I was out to my garage at like 2 a.m.
Hmm.
Like sanding my fingers down, just going at like I needed to get that thing done, and it paid off. I have my plastic dome that gets here. I think now. I think it was just delivered, so I can finally put the plastic dome. There's a few other modifications I'm gonna do, um, but I'm making that thing awesome. And there are upgrades. I don't want to spoil the movie. There's some upgrades to the suit that hopefully will be modeled that I'll be putting onto that thing. But it's just perfect. I love that. I love
Hmm.
the suit. Yeah.
So, when we get to the nitty gritty, because it looks so good, for you, do you kind of like have a standard process that you go to when it comes to doing post production on parts?
As in like from print to finish.
Yeah.
Yeah. So mine's kind of basic. I follow what's always worked for me, which is pretty common within the community. I have my Ryobi palm sander for basically knocking everything out. But with my sandpaper, I'll go 40, 60, 80, 120, 200, and that basically will make it like a smooth finish. I'll use my filler primer on top of that, maybe a coat or two, just depending on how much I need. But I'll also use spot filler Bondo to just get in any nicks and crannies that are, you know, messed up. After that dries, I use the palm sander again from 220 to 400, smooth it out. And then I'll put my first coat of primer, like my base. I typically use like a flat black primer just to get that. But it's not perfect. It's still, it's still just grit paper that's kind of scuffed it up a bit. But it's to 400 grit, which is good. And then Once that's dried, I start wet sanding. I do overkill on my wet sanding. I'll go from 600 grit to sometimes 2000. Buzz was up to 1500 grit because I didn't order any higher grit, but now I have higher grit. So I'll wet sand each part, which is painstaking and really frustrating, going like 6, 8, 1000, 1200, 1500. And once that's done, I throw the next coat, like my base coat on, flat black. So that should be perfectly smooth. I do a clear coat on that, which is odd. I base coat, then clear coat, and then I start putting my colors on top of that clear coat. So what's nice is you can use a white or a black depending on what you want to show through. So if you do a white, the colors will be much lighter on a gold, or if you use a black, they'll be much heavier, especially on reds. Reds will show through. If you want a dark, use a black base coat, but if you want them to be like kind of pinker, you'll use a white. And then I just go through my painting, airbrushing, all of that, and then I'll do my 1K clear coat. But I do have 2K, and I have actually been upgrading to start using the airbrush and everything to paint with automotive like 2K clear coat, which I'll be getting into like in a month or two.
Yeah. I think you're right. The fact that it's a process that's pretty standard. And it is. I mean, I think everybody uses some variant of that. Everybody and their brother's trying to find a way around sanding.
Oh,
Like everybody's like, oh, maybe if I just do this, I won't have to sand as much. Or maybe if I do this, like, nah, bro, you just got to sand it.
that's the thing. And I've never understood why it's like, oh, I don't want to sand. Like, I get it. Like, I completely understand you don't want to sand. I sat out in my garage for like 5 hours sanding Buzz in like one day, and I was burnt at the end of it. But I mean, you could go through and you could coat it or do whatever you want, but it's like you could just sand it.
Yeah.
Just sand it. That's all you got to do. And if you don't want to hand sand it, get a palm sander, and they work perfect. I mean, the lower grit you start with, if you don't want to cut through the material, you don't want to sand down and rip the material apart. Like, if you start with a low enough grit, you can knock out major layer lines. But it also goes back to making sure your printer's calibrated and making sure you have the smallest amount of layer lines you have possible, so that when you do sand, it's not much sanding to get rid of those layer lines.
Yeah. And I always have that debate with myself whenever I'm starting a new print, like how fine a detail I want to go with. And a lot of it comes down to, excuse me, like, if I'm working all week and I'm going to start the print on Monday, I'll go ahead and do a higher resolution. I'm not going to be able to touch it till next weekend anyway. So if it goes from being a 2 to 4 day print, so be it, big deal.
Right.
In my opinion, anyway, I just feel like filament's dirt cheap. So yes. It's like, I don't even bother with how much. The only time I get frustrated, and it isn't even because I lost filament, was just because when you're like doing like the 4 day print and it fails like 75% of the way through, and you're just like, oh, God dang it. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Do you use the epoxy resin at all?
For like smoothing?
The funny thing, I know there's like a bit of a debate about this. I know there are some people who
I'm not doing that. People that do that, it's like, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'll tell you that I'll never do that. Like, no. But epoxy resin for like, what do you mean?
I've used it before because originally, when I was like new to the game, somebody had talked about two different things. One was the epoxy resin, and the other one was the UV activated resin, which, folks, if you're out there and somebody suggests you use UV activated resin on your prints, don't do it. Like, just full stop. Like, you're putting yourself and the environment at a ton of risk to save you a little bit of sanding. Don't do it. Now, the epoxy resin, on the other hand, it's a pain in the ass to work with. And I don't use it on all my prints, and I don't even necessarily use it for the sake of smoothing. I like to use it on some parts if I just want to add an extra layer of firmness to it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, if I'm doing a helmet or if I'm doing a gauntlet, I won't do anything to it. But sometimes, like the shin guards and stuff like that, and the show that I'm not using it for smoothing, I usually do it on the inside, because it adds an extra layer of just like stiffness to it. Areas that I know are going to be potentially high impact.
Right.
And even then, you catch a little bit of hell for it, because there's, there are people out there who are like, and I understand why, because it's one of the tricks that people like to use just to try and get around sanding. And to tell you the truth, when I first started doing it, I was doing it for the sake of smoothing it out, only to figure out it doesn't really save you any time.
No.
It actually costs you time, because you're spending all that time putting
money.
the resin on when you could just be sitting out with a palm sander sanding the crap out of it.
Then you got to sand it down after anyway. So it's like, if you're gonna sand the resin down or any other coating, just just sand it. Just
Yeah.
sand the raw print.
Yeah. Yeah. And I found that out the first time I did something. Yeah, I'd printed it just like normal quality, and I'd put a layer of epoxy resin on it, and then you have to wait like so long for it to dry.
Yes.
And then you definitely have to put the mask and goggles on if you're going to sand that thing, especially with a palm sander, because the amount of dust it's going to kick up. And it's like after I got done sanding all that off, I'm kind of looking at it like this literally looks like what it would have looked like if I would have just sanded it with my 60 grit to begin with anyway. Like I don't see what the big difference is. Yeah, that's one of those bizarre things. And yeah, I cannot I try not to like go on a soapbox on this podcast, but that UV activated resin, it is so bad. It is so bad.
I just don't understand. I mean, if they want to do that, sure, but it's just not smart. It's just the amount of money you have to pay for it, then get it done, wait for it to dry. I know that UV, that stuff cures fast, but I like to sand and not potentially put my life in danger with that.
Right.
So,
well, and I think what you have happening is you have a lot of people who are new to doing this, and they don't know ahead of time, and understandably so, how much time it takes post production. Like it's not like Star Trek where you just walk up to it and press Buzz Lightyear suit and it pops out, and all you have to do is paint it. Right. And so the people are struggling with, oh my God, this takes forever to sand. And then somebody's like, oh, hey, here's a really quick way to get it done faster. And they latch onto it and they're like, let's do it. And then you're just making a mess. And that's not, I was interested in it when somebody first told me about it, because the person who told me about it, like, and at the time I'd never even done any resin printing. So I'd done like no work with resin whatsoever. I'm like, oh yeah, there's this resin and you could just spread it on and hit with the UV light and it hardens and it's like, boom. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I decided to go to Google and do a little bit of research on it, found out like how like terrible it is for you if you get any of that on your skin, or it gets into, even if you dribble some on the ground, it's bad. And I'm just like, what's the point of this again? Why are we doing this? The what's next for you? I know you did Buzz Lightyear. Do you got the next great build idea clunking around in there?
Yeah, I have a few. I've already started printing them. So I'll say I can't really get into too much detail. All I will say is something that has to do with Halo. I can't really get into too much detail about that.
Are you doing Cortana?
No. I know I'd be a perfect model for that. It's just like it's a thing that's happening. I can't really. So there's one Halo. I am making the Iron Samurai. I worked with Tidal Wave Designs. So it is like, that one's also kind of technically a Halo, I guess. He took the yokai, I believe that's the one. It's the kind of samurai looking suit. And I was like, perfect. So I got him to help modify the suit into like this, old Iron Man, but new age Iron Man, Iron Samurai, because I have the helmet and I have the katana. And I want the suit because it's mobile and I can run around in it. So that one will be fun. And then I also have the Iron Patriot.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, because I'm Canadian, I have the Canadian Patriot as well.
Oh, okay.
So I'll be making the Canadian Patriot for next year. But now that I have Buzz, it's kind of just like, cool, it's done. Now I got to make something else.
Yeah. What's the next great thing? Yeah, for sure. I know you don't want to get into it, and that's awesome what you're talking about, because that's like, I've got a suit that I'm working on now, and after that, I'm already thinking Halo. Because I'm like an OG Halo nerd. Like I remember buying the first Halo, like when it came out for the original Xbox, and I love getting on Halo Infinite and getting my butt kicked by 12-year-olds all the time. It's so much fun. And that's great. Like the awesome thing about Halo is that you can say you're working on Halo and it doesn't really give a lot away, because there's like a zillion variants you can do.
That's the thing. But the thing I don't like about Halo is when I wear my Doom suit, everyone's like, oh, are you Master Chief? I'm like, it's a green, just because it's a green suit doesn't mean it's Halo.
Right.
So, but yeah, the Halo suit would be fun. And I guess Iron Samurai is a Halo suit mashup as well. But I kind of like it because it hasn't been done before. It's something that'll be fun, but it'll be cool. So after that, not really sure. I know I want to make a War Machine 1, like the original, and the Mark 1 Iron Man.
Yeah,
it is. I know it's well contested, it is. I personally think that is the best Iron Man suit. Like that is what Stark built in a cave. It is the coolest suit. I want a Mark One suit. So I've made multiple helmet like Mark Ones. I just want to make the whole suit. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
The gosh, the other one that's really awesome is the I just saw this guy who did this and wore it to a con. It was the one from the What If. The Captain
Oh,
Carter one.
No, it's not the Hulk, but Hydra Smasher.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Salgado 3D.
Yes.
That dude is insane.
Right.
He's made the Hydra Stomper.
Yes.
Yeah. So he made the Stomper. He's made the Mark One. I think it was one of the Nova. Dude is absolutely insane with his builds. Like when I see them, I'm like, all right, this isn't fair. I want to make it. But you're already done with that. So, but yeah, Salgado is insane with his stuff. Like I appreciate him, and I've been following him for quite a while now. When I first saw like his Hydra helmet, I was like, no way. And then he posted it, and I was like, wow, that is a lot of work, dude. Like, yeah. So he's done crazy work.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about Instagram. It's just like every day I see something else that I'm just like, oh my God, like what is that? It's like 5% disheartening.
Right.
But then on the other hand, it's like 95% inspiring. Like I gotta up my game.
Yep.
Like I gotta bring it now because otherwise, whoo. Yeah.
I feel that. Honestly, when I first started like really getting into it, when I first met James and Mike, they really pushed me to like do better because their work was already so high up. I'm getting there. I'm close to getting up to their work. I'm not perfect yet. But yeah, I think the constructive criticism throughout the community is insane, and just like everyone's cool, and it's just the outreach to them, and you can chat with them. They're really cool, and yeah, it's really inspiring to see other people's work. Like JJJ 3D, dude's work is phenomenal. Like he came out of nowhere and just started dropping stuff, and I was like, all right, this isn't fair. Like this isn't cool. You started off at like peak, and you're still there, and you're getting better. How? I don't know. But that dude's just ridiculously. His work is insane. So
the other than them, who are some of your favorite people to follow and see what they're up to?
Oh man, so I mean, other than the boys, they're like Salgado. That dude makes insane work. The modelers, I think most of what inspires me is like the modelers that I interact with. And like there's builders like JJJ. But the modelers are the guys who like I chat with Walsh 3D and Vec 3D. Vec 3D was like the original modeler that James put me on, and he's the guy that like I interacted with. He's my age, and we kind of like hit it off, and then I was like, hey, this is a cool idea, and that's where the Iron Loki originated from the nightclub helmet. And I interacted with him, and then Walsh 3D came about, and now we have Levy 3D, and it's just really cool guys that I've been able to chat with and be like, this is really cool. What if we did it this way? And they're like, no problem, dude. Let's get it. So the modelers are really the guys. Like I hang out with Walsh and Beck on the Discord a lot, and chat with them. Eat Pray Nub, Trace, super cool guy. I recently met him a while ago, and his models are crazy. That was his Savage Spider. That one was really fun to make, and I also like his models because they're more like weird models. He doesn't just strictly do specific Iron Man or Marvel. Sometimes he really delves into cooler stuff like the Savage Spider helmet. And then Johan just throws like massive files out here like every month. Like his Patreon is all like every time I open it up, it's like, here's 3 more suits, like the Buzz suit. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now I have more stuff to print. So yeah.
Well, the modelers are they are like the
backbone.
The unspoken backbone of the entire, I don't even, just of the community. Because holy cow, and they blow my mind. Like I'm on Ryro's Patreon. Because some of the stuff that ends up in there, I'm just like, oh my God. And it's frustrating because they turn out so much crap. that something great will come out, and I'll be
You
like,
can't
that's
print
it. And I'll get the files and I'll start printing it. And then like 2 days later, another one comes. I'm like, I want to do that one now.
So then you
It
put
is,
that one on hold and print the new one, and then you have a hallway with 12 helmets because you wanted to print the next one, and you keep printing the next one.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
NTX, dude, he worked with me. We made that like superior concept helmet, which I still need to get done. NTX is also a super cool guy. His models are great. I just love the community because you can message a modeler and ask for help, and they're more than happy to help you to learn how to model or to modify something. So
Mhm. Yeah, the and the modelers, yes, and the community as a whole. Like
yes,
it amazes me, especially when I was because I'm like, I'm not, I think 4 months that I've been like serious printing. Um, and so when that happens and you're like walking into this world, it's like you don't know up from down half the time. And the
right.
amount of people that I've been able to reach out to, and they've been like so like free with their time and help and advice. And there was a guy by the name of Scott who I believe he's from kind of the St. Louis like maker space area.
Okay.
Yeah, he's good friends with Kayla, who was on the podcast.
Mhm.
And he popped in on one of my live streams and heard me whining about my CR10 Max. And on the side, he started DMing me. And this week we got it up and working again.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I mean, this is a guy
Okay.
who could have just been like, oh, he's having, oh, well, it's probably this, and just moves on with his life. Instead, he
Mhm.
like went out of his way to reach out to me, be like, hey, I hear you have a problem. How can I help with that?
Yeah.
Um, it is probably one of the coolest communities I've
Mhm.
ever had the pleasure to be a part of.
Right. It's it's really uplifting too, and I just like the fact that some of my closest friends now are people from the community that
Mm-hmm.
like I mean we already have cons planned like even next year because it's just like Mike's out Arizona, James is in St. or Illinois, so like we all need to figure out when we get together, but yeah, it's just meeting new people that also do the same kind of stuff you do, but I just like that I can throw ideas out there and then they come back to me and we kind of just talk it out and figure out the coolest thing to do. Yeah, and that's just the really cool part. So
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, it sounds like we're a lot in the same boat. Like over like the last like how many months, I've made some really great friends, people that I talk to sometimes every day,
yes.
and all of them I've yet to meet in person.
Okay.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of like the way those things go until it is
Mhm.
like, I think there's a few of us who are going to be going to C2E2 in Chicago here at the beginning of
Okay.
August. And then after that, hopefully WonderCon next March. But that's
Okay.
that's the way it goes. But yeah, like what a time to be alive that at least like we have social media to, sort of have these interactions. Had this been like 20 years ago, like
No, you. Yeah.
no, not at all. And
And
that's one thing.
that's. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the what I thought it wasn't really weird, but when I first met Cold Cosplay, I was like, "What's up, man? Like, cool. I haven't met you before. I've known you for quite a while now." And then when we landed in Vegas and I first saw like third dimension builds, just like, "What's up, man? Like,
Yeah.
cool to find." There's like nothing weird about it. And then we like
Yeah.
all hung out, just had a great time. There was like absolutely, it wasn't uncomfortable. It wasn't weird. It wasn't like, "Oh, this is who you are." It was like, "No, you're just like a really good friend of mine, and we're just hanging out now." So
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't know, it never came up in the chat, but y'all just love to wear Crocs and
yeah,
y'all showed up wearing them and everything was great. Yeah.
yep.
I gotta ask, as a side note, where did that start? Where did that whole thing start?
So I want to say, so I know James had a pair. I also had a pair, and we kind of just joked around with it, and it went to the point where I would wear my fit it with Hammerhead, like when I made Hammerhead, and then I wore it in the shower with my fish flops on, in my tuxedo. Yeah. So like that's kind of where it started, and then we got Third Dimension Builds, his pair. We got Vec 3D, his pair. And then Colt Cosplays. Well, I think he has his pair. But yeah, I really just started like I think James had it and I had them because I had stolen this pair from my brother. I don't know where he got his, and then just I don't know where James got his, and then we kind of just now we just exclusively wear them. It's just
Mhm.
enjoyable. You got the perfect airflow, right? They look cool. I wear them when I go to like the lake and stuff. So
I don't even know. Like I all of a sudden I'm like it like came out of nowhere. Like I'm just scrolling through social media and all of a sudden there's all this like hate going on towards Crocs. And I'm like,
well, that's
what
because
happened?
Rogue Gallery Cosplay. I really hope I didn't butcher that. Like I talk to them all the time.
I
Rogue
think you
Gallery
got it.
Cosplay. Is that what it is? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
All right,
sure.
I didn't want to butcher that. They wear the less desirable footwear and they think Crocs are better, but we don't have to argue about that. I just think fish flops are cool
I'm
and they're
gonna
instantly recognizable.
yeah. I've talked to Rose Gal. I'm gonna have to reach out to him a couple times. Let him know.
They are honestly the nicest individuals you will ever meet. Those are another huge player, dude. Like
Mhm.
they're just it's a cool couple. I don't know who which one I'm chatting to sometimes, but it's like they're just so kind and like they're more than willing to help you out with stuff. And the stuff they do make is like top tier as well. Like
Mhm.
it is ridiculous the work that they do. But it's like genuinely, they're just a really enjoyable people to talk to.
Mhm.
So
It's because of the Crocs. That's why. That's 100% why. I'm gonna reach out to them, let them know I've got their back on this whole thing.
okay, sure.
So, Casey, for me, it was funny because, like, I legitimately, I don't think right now I even own a pair of Crocs. But for years, I worked in a hospital, and let me
Okay.
tell you, like, Crocs were like the thing because they were comfortable, and any kind of bodily fluid you would get
just
on them,
wash off.
you just threw them in the sink, washed them off, hung them up to dry, and
Right.
put your backup pair on, and went back to work. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's been, oh my God, 9 years now since I've worked in the medical field.
Okay.
And I guarantee you in that 9 years, I haven't gone and bought a new pair. That was the only reason I ever had them was because you were out
Right.
on the hospital floors every day. And I was in a post-surge unit. So there was everything from,
Okay.
urine to blood to wound vacs to, you didn't want to wear a nice shiny pair of tennis shoes in there.
Just throw some Crocs on.
Just throw
Call
some
it a day.
Crocs on. Yeah. Keep extra pair and a couple pairs of socks in your locker, and you were good to go.
Right.
So, well, all right, man. Well, hey, we're getting up against the clock. Any
Okay.
advice you want to give to any new builders out there? Any cosplayers interested in getting into it?
So I would say that the advice that I have is just never stop building. I know it sounds super cliche. But I still own, they're away, so I don't have to look at them. I do look at them, but like the first helmets I personally ever built, I still have them. I will always have them and I will cherish them because as you grow as a builder and you make new things, it might get you down because you see people's work that's like phenomenal and you're like, man, it will never get there. But if you look at your first work to what it is now, it's like, oh my God, like I've really, really I've gotten better. And like even from my Doom suit to my Buzz suit, even 2 years apart, it's like insane to see the differences between them. So yes, honestly, my advice is just never stop building, but also like reach out to people. You never know what's going to happen from it. I have, 4 best friends that we talk every day and we just have a good time, and just the connections you make with people is really, I think that's the best part of the 3D printing is the fact that I have people now that I'm really close to.
Yeah. And our numbers grow, and one day we will take over the world, and it will be a better world.
Yes. 3D printers in every household.
Yes. And that's all we'll talk about every day. And then eventually there will be a civil war between the Croc faction and the fish shoe flop faction.
Oh, dude, originally it was the pineapple on the pizza versus no pineapple, but we're not going to get into that one. I don't want to start that back up. That was the original hatred. But
and pineapple on a pizza is gross. Oh no, are we on the opposite side of that one,
dude? I eat anything on a pizza, especially
that's
pineapple.
That's true.
A nice Hawaiian, the sweet and tangy. All right.
Fair enough. Well, I'd like to say it's been a pleasure, but
it has. It really has. Other than the footwear and food.
Right. Well, yeah, dude, thank you so much for coming on the show.
And thank you for inviting me. This was awesome.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll keep in touch and we'll talk to you again in the future.
Of course. Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, man.
Have a good one.
All right, so that was the episode with Daniel. I hope you enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun talking to him. I want to thank each and every one of you for liking, subscribing, sharing, word of mouth, all these things that help this podcast grow. I'm going to get out of here. Before I go, I want to say I love all of you. Hope you take care of each other, and we'll talk to you next time.